The Audie Murphy mystery is finally being understood, and the truth is not comforting. On the night of May 27, 1971, two men wearing maintenance coveralls entered a small hangar at Martinsville Airport in Virginia. They were not listed on the work schedule. They did not sign in. They spent approximately 40 minutes working on a twin-engine Aero Commander aircraft and then vanished into the darkness. The next morning, the plane lifted into heavy fog. 14 minutes later, Audie Murphy, the most decorated combat soldier in American history, was dead on the side of a mountain. For 50 years, the public was told it was a tragic accident, bad weather, pilot error. Another small aircraft lost to the unforgiving Appalachian terrain, a statistical inevitability. What the public was never told was that Murphy had scheduled meetings with investigative reporters from the New York Times and the Washington Post for the first week of June 1971, meetings where he intended to reveal information so damaging to the United States government that allowing him to speak was no longer an option. Those two men in the hangar were not there to repair the plane. They were there to ensure it would never land. America depends on war heroes. They are living symbols of courage, sacrifice, and moral clarity. Medals are pinned to their chests. Cameras are pointed at their smiles. Their stories reassure the nation that its wars are justified and its conscience clean. But heroes are only valuable when they stay in character, when they smile for photographs, when they give speeches about honor, when they repeat the approved narrative. Audie Murphy understood this role and played it flawlessly for 26 years. He was the farm boy turned warrior, the quiet Texan who never boasted about his 33 medals, the soldier who transitioned effortlessly into Hollywood, lending authenticity to the westerns that taught Americans who, the good guys, were supposed to be. By 1961, Murphy had stopped playing along, and in America, nothing is more dangerous than a hero who refuses to stay on script. Murphy was born in 1925 to sharecroppers in Hunt County, Texas. He was the seventh of 12 children in a family crushed by poverty. His father abandoned them. His mother died when Audie was 16, leaving him to hold together what little remained. By 8 years old, he hunted to feed his siblings. By 10, he picked cotton for pennies. By 12, he left school permanently, because survival mattered more than education. Pearl Harbor did not create Murphy's skills. It simply gave them a battlefield. He tried to enlist in the Marines and was rejected for being too small. The Navy turned him away. The paratroopers did the same. At 5'5" and barely 112 pounds, the military repeatedly told him he was unfit to die for his country. Eventually, the Army infantry accepted him. He was 17. What followed defies reason. In 27 months of combat, Murphy fought in 9 major campaigns. He killed more than 2 enemy soldiers in close combat. He was wounded 3 times. He earned every major combat decoration the United States could offer. At 19 years old, wounded and alone, standing atop a burning tank destroyer, Murphy held off an entire company of German infantry while calling artillery fire onto his own position. It was like standing on a box of dynamite. He later said, what made Murphy extraordinary was not just that he survived the war, it was that he spoke honestly about what it did to him. In an era when psychological trauma was dismissed as weakness, Murphy openly described his nightmares, his insomnia, his dependence on sleeping pills. He slept with a loaded pistol under his pillow because part of him never left the battlefield. I live in a nightmare, he said. A real one when I sleep, and a daylight one when I wake. By telling the truth, Murphy exposed a lie America depended on. The lie that war leaves heroes whole, that sacrifice is clean, that real soldiers simply move on. By 1971, Murphy had uncovered something worse. The pilot flying Murphy's plane that morning was Herman Butler, a man with over 8,000 flight hours, instrument traded, and known for conservative design. On paper, he was ideal, but Butler's employment history contained unexplained gaps. From 1964 to 1968, there were periods where he officially worked nowhere while maintaining an expensive lifestyle and logging flight time. Declassified records, released in 2015, revealed the truth. Butler had been flying for Air America, the covert airline used for clandestine operations in Southeast Asia, when an experienced pilot with that background flew unusually low through mountainous terrain and poor visibility. It was not an accident, it was a choice. Witnesses on the ground reported hearing an explosion in the air several seconds before the crash. Their testimony was documented, then dismissed. Forensic analysis conducted decades later revealed stress fractures on control surfaces inconsistent with impact damage. Components failed during flight, not on the mountain. Critical aircraft parts that should have been recovered were never found. Murphy's widow never accepted the official explanation. She knew her husband trusted danger, but never incompetence. He would not have boarded a plane with a reckless pilot. In late 1970, Murphy began working on a television project about veterans returning to civilian life. His access was unmatched. VA hospitals opened their doors. Veterans trusted him. What he found disturbed him deeply. Across multiple facilities, veterans described treatments they did not consent to, memory gaps, psychological deterioration beyond PTSD. Murphy followed the patterns and uncovered a network. Federal funds meant for veteran care were being diverted into classified research programs. Traumatized veterans were being used as test subjects for psychological conditioning experiments tied to intelligence agencies. Murphy gathered names, dates, funding trails, and witnesses. He documented everything. By early 1971, he had scheduled meetings with major investigative journalists. His appointment calendar was found in his briefcase at the crash site. At the same time, government surveillance intensified. Declassified files revealed Murphy had been monitored extensively. Phone calls recorded. Mail intercepted. Informants planted. He was classified under COINTELPRO as a credibility threat. Internal memos described his public standing as uniquely dangerous. Efforts were made to discredit him. His finances, his gambling, his mental health. None worked fast enough. On the evening before his flight, two men presenting FAA credentials accessed his aircraft and focused on the elevator control system. No official record exists. The saboteur was precise. Control cables were scored, not cut. That damage would only reveal itself under turbulence. The plane was designed to fail. Invisibly, witnesses heard the explosion. The plane went down. The investigation reached a predetermined conclusion. 5 days later, the meeting Murphy was scheduled to attend never happened. 50 years later, documents remain sealed. Evidence remains missing. Redactions continue. Audie Murphy survived. War II. He survived wounds, trauma, and unimaginable violence. He did not survive telling the truth. America honored its hero only as long as he stayed silent.